Carl Spackler was a serious racehorse and a really exciting addition to the Lane's End roster. He showed his talent early, blowing the doors off a maiden field by nearly 9 lengths and earning the TDN Rising Star tag. From there, he turned into a horse that absolutely loved the big moments and the big stages. Saratoga was his home base. He had 4 wins at the Spa, capped by a Grade 1 4-star Dave, where he ran a 106 Beyer. That's real elite turf mile form, and he backed it up year after year. He was incredibly consistent at America's premier race meeting, giving Chad Brown his first 4-star Dave winner.
Carl Spackler breezes on by. Ottoman Fleet with plenty of work to do, and More Than Looks is revving up in the center, but Carl Spackler has opened up. What a tremendous athlete Carl Spackler is as he dominates the FanDuel 4-star Dave. Wins it by more than 4 lengths. More Than Looks was second. It's a photo for third between Strong Quality and Ottoman Fleet.
And apparently a Grade 1 at Saratoga wasn't enough. He decided he needed to add Keeneland to the resume. Grade 1 winner in the Turf Mile in the fall, then he came right back in the spring and won the Maker's Mark Mile, opening up and doing it with authority. 3 Grade 1 wins, 5 triple-digit Beyers, and he always showed up.
And Carl Spackler, it looked for just a moment that they were bearing down on him. Now he hits another gear. He's got the lead back out to 3.5. More Than Looks is coming stoutly late, but here's the wire. Carl Spackler wins the Coolmore Turf Mile by a diminishing length on the line in 1 minute 34.23 seconds.
What stands out to me is how he does it. He has tactical speed, a legit turn of foot, and the kind of calm professional demeanor trainers love. Physically, he looks the part, and mentally, he's been described as a child's pony. He's by Lope de Vega, one of the top sires in Europe, and out of a more than ready mare, which gives him a really nice blend of international turf class and American versatility. And when you consider Lope de Vega stands for 200,000 euros overseas, while Carl is right down the road at Lane's End for a fraction of that, it makes him even more compelling.
Carl Spackler, a widening 5-length lead. Integration is second. Trickery goes to third. The Maker's Mark Mile. It is all Carl Spackler and Flavian Pratt. Integration second, close for third. Trickery or Northern Invader in a time of 1 minute 36.56 seconds.
Chad, you've had some pretty darn good turf horses, but I've heard you say that this is the best turf miler that you've ever had.
Yeah, for sure. He's run the fastest numbers and by a large margin, actually. And he's won some races that we hadn't been able to win before, like the 4-star Dave. It's hard to believe we couldn't win that race before Carl Spackler came along. And he's just been a great horse from the time he stepped in the barn as an unraced 2-year-old to the time he left. He was always ranked very high.
Well, I think that most people will know that you kind of started the Lope de Vega craze here with the successes you had with Newspaper of Record and a handful of others. But what do you think Carl can do for American breeding as a Lope de Vega option that's not going to cost you 200,000 euros?
That's a great question. I've had to go over the pond to find the Lope de Vegas and bring them over here, as you pointed out. And to have one to breed, a son to breed to here, potentially could really change things, I think, with the American turf market. It's very expensive to go over and buy these yearlings. We make it look easy, but there's a big expense behind it. And to be able to breed some horses or have the opportunity to buy some horses in the marketplace over here, based on a Lope de Vega to get that same line. And with turf racing really taken off here the last 5 or 6 years, I'd say, is when the graded stakes number on turf met the dirt. I mean, they're the same number of graded stakes in this country, turf and dirt. So there's a lot of value with turf racing, with turf breeding. And I think you're going to see more stallions like this over here in the years to come.
So Lope de Vega, we know that he can get you a good young horse. That mile seems to be great for him. He can go a little bit further as well. What's some of the attributes that Lope de Vega has that you also saw very apparently with Carl Spackler?
So really good attitude, loves to train, very sound horses. Carl Spackler, really well-bred horse. I trained this horse's mother It's actually the first successful horse I had for E5. Bob Edwards and his family. A lot of them, people know the Breeders' Cup winners. You know, the Good Magics and Rushing Falls and New Money Honeys. Well, actually, the first horse I had was Zendaya, his mother, and she won a graded stake out in California going a mile. She had a good turn of foot. She was a good looking horse herself, and is off to a great start as a broodmare. So, um, getting into this horse, what I really love is that he's bred so strong. We're talking about Lope de Vega characteristics. The mother, sound, consistent, good turn of foot. Um, miler. You'd think precociousness when you think of these horses, both top and bottom, winning at a mile.
What is that one attribute that Carl had? And I'm sure you're going to have a bunch of little Carls running around the barn. What's that one attribute you're very hopeful passes along to his offspring?
With Carl Spackler, he had a lot of great characteristics and attributes. Anyone that's ever worked with this horse, from me on down, will tell you his brain. You could put us all in separate rooms and ask us the same question. Everyone's going to tell you the same thing. This horse had one of the most easygoing, calm demeanors for a top racehorse that's was very fast with his numbers, very competitive and intense in the heat of battle. But anyone could handle him, and he was so laid back and quiet at times that we'd often thought he was maybe not doing well, or maybe he was sick. Never. This horse was never sick, and he was just so laid back and quiet. He had that ability that trainers can't teach horses, and that's to just switch off. The horse would totally switch off when he was out of work and out of racing. And when he was on the track getting ready to do something serious, he switched completely the other way. And I wish I could teach all my horses to be that way, but you can't. They just have to have it.
Bob, not only is this one of the best horses you've ever had, it's also one of the best named horses you ever had. How long did it take you to come up with this one?
We always had that in the pocket. You know, we were always thinking of naming a horse, you know, after Caddyshack, Bill Murray's character. And the opportunity kind of presented itself with Carl Spackler, obviously coming back to the U.S. and running him. So we had an opportunity to name him, and we took advantage of it.
What an awesome career he had, right? I mean, I think some people forget that he lost to Far Bridge in one of those maiden races before he broke his maiden. Then he just kind of feels like he always showed up and ran well, and he had that tactical speed for a miler. What was the journey like from foaling until his last race with Carl?
You know, so he was in Tattersall sale, and we planned on obviously selling him. And, you know, there was a little knock here, a little knock there. I said, you know, let's keep him. Let's send him back. I sent him to Ian Brennan. And Ian said, Bob, let me tell you, this is one of the best looking horses I'm pulling off the van right now. And from then on, you know, we thought the horse was going to be something, not quite as spectacular as he ended up being. But like, you know, early on, Ian saw something in him, and then we sent him to Chad. And, you know, Chad saw the same thing. And obviously Chad's built some great careers out of horses that we've had with him. And it just kind of all fell into place once he started winning. And once he started understanding his job, it really fell into place for him.
He actually reminds me a little bit of another horse that you had in Rushing Fall in his style, right? Where she kind of made her own trip. If you let her get to the front, she'd take the lead. If you needed her to sit off a couple horses, she would. If she broke a little bit slow away from there and came from fifth, it didn't matter. Carl feels like he would have won from anywhere.
Yeah, he just, you know, he's got that special kind of that same thing. You know, I remember years ago Javier saying that, you know, one of the horses that reminded me like could do everything was Ghost Sapper. You know, Ghost Sapper could just be anywhere and win, and that's how Rushing Fall ended up being. And that's how Spackler ended up being. It was, you know, I'll tell you how exciting it is to win big races. You know, with a homebred, it just makes everything that much better.
Well, one homebred seems like it's going to lead to some more homebreds. What are your plans on supporting old Carl? Who you planning on sending there?
So Carl's mom was my first win ever. You know, so if we go back to his mom, she's my first one ever. I've sold a lot of horses from her. We have a really nice Justifying the Farm right now out of her. She's going to hopefully drop it into Mischief here super soon for us. So I love the family, love the pedigree. I have New Money Honey, our Breeders' Cup winner, and I'm looking forward to sending her to Carl Spackler. I went to Good Magic this year, so last year, I have a nice baby out of her. So I like to keep those pedigrees that we created to keep them going. And I have an Uncle Mo mare that I'm sending to him as well. So I want to get him going. I want to get some horses at the farm and see him continue on.
Bob, you've been around Carl from the beginning. You've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about him. whether it be your son-in-law Tyler, whether it be Chad, whether it be Ian. What's that one thing that if someone was considering breeding to Carl, you'd want to make sure that they knew?
I mean, outside just take, mentally, he's unbelievable. He's a super cool horse. And I think everybody gets that kind of super cool vibe from him. He's gorgeous. He's stunning, right? He's a really good looking horse. You're getting that European blood coming over here. We got those Kentucky Downs dollars just waiting for us. And, we don't have, any marquee turf stars anymore. I mean, Twirling Candy's doing really well. Obviously Into Mischief falls in there because they make anything, but we don't have that next cross. And I'm hoping he can be it. I think he can.
Tyler, I can imagine you had some stressful grade 1 rides throughout your career, but riding for your father-in-law has to be one of the top ones.
It can definitely be stressful riding grade ones, but it's even more so for your father-in-law. But with a horse like Carl Spackler, it made it that much easier. He just gave you a ton of confidence, and just looking at him, it kind of says it all.
So you know your way a little bit around some grade 1 winners going a mile on the turf, right? You got Stormy, War of Will, Next Shares. How did Carl fit compared to some of those other turf milers, the really good ones you've been on?
Out of all the nice turf models that I've ridden, I would have to put Carl Spackler at the top of the list. Such an amazing athlete, physically empowering. He was tactical. You can put him anywhere in the race, and he showed up every time. He's a model of consistency and just a pleasure to be around.
As a rider, you know these horses pretty intimately. What's that one trait that Carl has that you're hoping that he'll pass on? Because obviously you're in pretty good shape to ride a lot of Carl babies. What's that one attribute that you're hopeful that he'll pass on?
One thing I loved about Carl Spackler was his high cruising speed and his turn of foot from there. It's hard for horses to kind of click along at that cadence and then kick, but he had a tremendous turn of foot, and I'm really excited to see what his offspring has to offer.
And when you say that about him having that cruising speed, that's not something that you typically see with turf types. They're usually the kind of take up, make one run, but it felt like Carl was able to give you a couple of runs in the middle of the race to get position and then still kick home like a typical Chad Brown trained horse.
No, that was the thing. He wasn't the typical European style sit and pounce. He was more tactical. You could let him use his natural speed, you could place him anywhere in the race, and he'd always show that turn of foot. And I think that's what separated him from the rest of the class.
Peter, well, one of the things I've learned about my relationship with Lanes Inn is you guys are always on the move, picking up new horses. And I couldn't be more excited about one of these horses that you guys have. He's one of my favorite horses in training. Carl Spackler was one of my favorite horses in training. Carl Spackler. Talk a little bit about Carl's addition to the Lanes Inn roster.
Oh, it's so exciting having a horse that he kind of captured the imagination of the racing public. It was just his running style, just the name recognition, everything about him. He just everybody wanted to root for Carl. So we're delighted to have him here, and he's settled in so well. He's such a nice horse to be around. He's a strong, imposing horse, like big shoulders, strong hip, well balanced, really good looking individual. But he's such a nice horse to be around. He's calm, just takes everything in, just does it easily. He's a real dude. He's quickly becoming a barn favorite as well.
Oh, I mean, I can't wait for the names. These Carl Spackler names of these babies is going to be a lot of fun in a couple of years when they hit the ground. I think the biggest thing that I notice is the opportunity for one of the hottest stallions in the world, Lope de Vega, to get to that Lope de Vega line for only $15,000 versus the $200,000 you'd have to do if you wanted to get to Lope de Vega overseas.
Yeah, it's a great way for the breeders over here to get into that line. And you always wonder, is that going to translate from Europe to here? But we've already seen Lope de Vega's son Bellardo has already had grade 1 winners over here in America, as well as Lope de Vega himself. So his sons have had success here, and I think that getting into him at 15,000 is just such great value, and that people will be all over it.
And then talk a little bit about the dynamic of having a pretty, it's a pretty dominant turf pedigree, having a horse like that. I think with racing, the way that it's transition to having all of these big races on the grass and all the money that's available at places like Kentucky Downs and Colonial Downs and out west still in California, and the Breeders' Cup races have taken a big, making sure they have every division covered when it comes to grass. What are you expecting from the type of mares that are going to be sent to Lope de Vega?
To Carl Spackler, yeah, I think that
Carl, Carl, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we are going to see a lot of turf mares, but we can also see a lot of the lines over here that have worked well with him already. So we've seen Lope de Vega's worked very well with the Danzig line, so you've got a lot of possibilities over here, as well as Sadler's Wells line. So you've got Medaglia d'Oro mares, Kitten Destroy mares. I think we'll see a lot of them. Lope de Vega's had a Grade 1 winner out of an unbridled song mare, so that gives great opportunities there, and especially for horses like Liam's Map as a broodmare sire as well. So I think that we've got a lot of possibilities for breeders over here to take advantage of that. And with like you said, all the good turf racing that we're going to have here now, and with New York, with the new Belmont turf track and the synthetic as well, I think that it'll carry over to the synthetic as well as the turf.
Well, if I was a breeder, and Carl Spackler might get me in the game. I love Carl so much. Yeah. And I think we're going to talk to Bob Edwards pretty soon. He actually has a lot of confidence. From what I understand, he's going to send New Money Honey, one of his first Breeders' Cup champions, to Carl Spackler, which should be a lot of fun to see those two pedigrees line up. But what's the one thing that you're telling people that are calling, checking in on Carl to decide if they want to breed to Carl? What's that one thing, that one point you want to make sure potential breeders know about Carl Spackler?
That he is such an impressive physical. He's such a good looking horse. You encourage them to come out, see him, be around him. He's just got great strength to his hip and shoulder, nice deep girth, plenty of bone. He's just got substance, natural muscle. He's a very impressive physical.